The Alabama Crimson Tide head to the plains of Auburn, Alabama to play another edition of the Iron Bowl. This game is 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. Look, Alabama enters Jordan-Hare with a better record and a win secures their spot in the college football playoff and in the SEC championship game. But a lot of this game and a lot of this breakdown will center around the venue itself. And look, the Iron Bowl moved out of Birmingham in the late 80s, and Alabama has not been as good in Jordan-Hare as one would like if you're looking at it from an Alabama standpoint. They're just 7-10 in Jordan-Hare. And the Crimson Tide, they have won the last two trips to Auburn in 2021 and in 2023, but both required fairly improbable last-minute heroics, including a game-tying touchdown drive by Bryce Young and 4 overtimes where they won in 2021, and a 4th and 31 completion in 2023 that has always been a reminder of just how insane this game gets, especially on the plains. You also look at some historically disappointing losses in 2013, 2019, that ended some national title aspirations. So going on the road is very difficult, and Auburn has played well at home in this rivalry. They are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 home games against the Crimson Tide. Look, Auburn's motivation's outrageously high. It always is in a game like this. They're 5-6. They need a win to get the bowl eligibility and the opportunity to clinch a spot in the postseason while simultaneously knocking out your bitter rival from the playoff. Yeah, you know Auburn's going to bring their best in a game like this. Question number 1, how much will Auburn lean on the quarterback run game? Look, Auburn's quarterback, Ashton Daniels, was held out against Mercer to maintain eligibility. They want to redshirt him, so he didn't play last week, but he is expected to return as the starter for the Iron Bowl. And Ashton Daniels has a lot of juice. He has hit 21 miles an hour in a game. Now, it was last year at Stanford, but this is a guy that can, if you give him a seam, he can take it the distance. And in his 3 games this year with significant snaps, if you remove sacks from the equation, against Arkansas, he had 5 carries for 38 yards. Against Kentucky, he had 10 carries for 84 yards. And against Vanderbilt, he had 16 carries for 103 yards and a couple touchdowns. So you've seen his rushing production go up in the last few weeks. I would expect an offensive identity that looks a little bit like what we saw in the Vanderbilt game where he carried it 16 times. Now, Alabama, statistically, they are really good on the defensive side. They lead the SEC in pass defense. They've allowed just 19 points a game in SEC play. That's number 1 in the SEC. But there have been times when Kane Womack's defense have given up some yardage to the opposing quarterback in the run game. And Daniels, I think, unique ability to kind of scramble without, I guess, taking off and get defenders to commit is of the utmost importance. So I think a big key in this game for Alabama is to neutralize the big runs given up. That's where Auburn can hurt you. They have 18 carries that have gone for 10-plus yards. That's top 25. They have, and Alabama has given up 16 carries of 20-plus yards. So that's 94th. So it's going to be very, very important for everything in this game for Alabama not to give up the big plays on the ground and for Auburn to try to create them. And if you look at Alabama, they've given up a couple of games, right? 2 for Tennessee, 2 for Oklahoma. Mizzou had 2. Vandy had 2. Georgia had 5. So it'd be very important for Auburn to create those explosives on the ground and for Alabama to limit those explosives. Question number 2, how much will Alabama try to run the football? Now, this sets up a direct confrontation with Alabama's own challenges running the football. They've averaged just over 3 yards per carry in conference games. Now, Auburn's defense, they have shown occasional statistical weaknesses and situational efficiency early in the year. They have been championship caliber along the defensive front all season long. They excel at stopping the run. And in SEC play, they've been very effective. And they've played some great rushing attacks, too. They've played against Georgia. They've played against Missouri. So if Auburn's defensive line with Keldrick Falk kind of win the battle up front and hold Alabama below their already modest rushing average, then it could alter the dynamic with what Alabama tries to attack Auburn with. Now, Keldrick Falk, he's the leader of the defense. He's going to be kind of all over the place. He's going to be on the inside. He's going to be on the outside. They'll move him around and try to create advantages for him. And Alabama is going to have to know where he's at all times. And if Auburn can contain the rushing attack, that puts a lot of pressure on the shoulders of Ty Simpson and the passing attack. Alabama's going to have to at least be somewhat patient with the run game. If they abandon the run too soon and they become too much leaning on the passing attack, then the pass rush, I think, can be impactful. But if they just lean into the run game a little bit and just keep Auburn honest with their own rushing attack, it will keep them out of third and long situations and will keep Auburn's defense just a little bit off balance. Question number 3, how will Alabama's offensive line hold up in protection against Auburn's pass rush? I think Auburn has an elite run stopping unit. They are really good up front, stopping the run. What about the pass rush? Do you feel like they can get home on the edges against Caden Proctor, who's at left tackle? Against the center, Parker Brailsford, who's a little banged up, didn't play last week. They've moved some pieces around on the right side of the offensive line. And pass protection for Alabama, it's got to be paramount in this game. And whatever it takes, whether it's extra blockers, max protect, moving the line of scrimmage, moving the launch point, helping the tackles, the line's ability to maintain a clean pocket for Ty Simpson to allow him the necessary time to go through his progressions and to kind of mitigate the pressure that can occasionally lead to turnovers is very important. It's also very important for Ty Simpson to protect the ball. In the event in which he takes a sack, which is going to happen, it might happen in this game a couple times. Well, he's got to protect the ball when he does take that sack. He went 5 straight games with a sack fumble lost and has held it a little bit too long at times, and notably against Oklahoma in the second half, a little bit against Vanderbilt. So he's got to get the ball out and be very decisive against a really good defense. Question number 4, can Auburn's passing attack and tempo create some problems for Alabama's secondary? Now, Auburn's averaging just 190 yards a game through the air. That's 106th. But there's really only been one game that you can really use when going into this matchup, and that was a game against Vanderbilt. Because this current staff, I mean, Hugh Freeze no longer there, DJ Dirk in the interim, this current staff really only has one game to evaluate against quality competition. Now, you could say you can use the Mercer game, but the Mercer game to me is not indicative of what you might get in this matchup. It was the Vanderbilt game. That's the one that's the most impressive, and it was a very impressive performance against Vandy. They threw for 353 yards in that game on 46 attempts. They had 5 passing plays that went for 20-plus yards. I think most people look at their weapons, they think to themselves, oh, man, they're unreal. They should be great throwing the football. And Cam Coleman's one of the top weapons at wide receiver in the FBS. Eric Singleton's got great juice. Malcolm Simmons has had some great moments in the slot for quite some time. And in this game, they probably played with a lot more tempo and pace than they used at any point of the season. That was the game against Vanderbilt. Now, Alabama's pass defense has been great all year. They allow less than 150 a game. That's top 4 in the country. So how much will the tempo that Auburn utilized against Vanderbilt carry over in this game? And how much will those weapons for Auburn's offense, their wide receivers, play a role in this game, as well as a huge question going into it? Question number 5, will Alabama's pass rush create problems for the Auburn offensive line? Now, here's one of the biggest challenges. Auburn's quarterbacks have taken 41 sacks this season. That's 3rd most in the FBS. Now, a lot of the blame is pointed to Jackson Arnold, who was the starting quarterback for a while, and frankly to Hugh Freeze, which is totally fair. But Ashton Daniels did get sacked 7 times against Kentucky. So Ashton Daniels has played a role in this as well, but Hugh Freeze was a big part of the offense against that Kentucky team. So maybe it's going to be different now with Derek Nix calling the plays. There have been only 2 sacks a game since against Vandy and Mercer, so that's encouraging. Alabama's pass rush, though, has quietly gotten much better as the season has gone along. And with the return of Quay Russaw on one side, Yanze Pierre on the other, you actually have 2 guys that can get it off the edge. So that might be something to watch in this game as well. And then finally, question number 6. Can Ty Simpson get back on track? If you watch him all year, he has done a great job bouncing back. If you look at the Florida State game, it wasn't his best game. But in the games after that, he played at an outrageously high level. If you watch the Oklahoma game, where he started really, really well in that game, didn't play quite as decisively in the second half, he's going to have to play great in 60 minutes for this ball game to go in Alabama's favor. Jeremy Bernard, Ryan Williams, Lottie Brooks, Isaiah Horton, those are tremendous weapons on the outside. And with Auburn, you will see a decent amount of man coverage, especially on 3rd down. So those guys are going to have to win on 3rd down, and they certainly have the personnel to do it. One other issue in this game for the Tide is the potential absence of Josh Cuevas. at tight end. He missed last week's game. Allegedly, he had a foot injury in practice. If he's available and he's ready to go, that would be a huge boost to the Crimson Tide because he has been a safety blanket all year for this passing attack. But I think Ty will play great in this game. I think the coaching staff will have him ready to roll, which is why I'm taking Alabama to win the game. I think lost in the bounce back that we saw against Vanderbilt from Auburn's offense is the fact that Auburn's offense has still been very up and down all season long. I think Auburn's defense will come to play, which is why I think this game will be very close and competitive. But still at this point, I'm having a hard time trusting Auburn's offense because there's been way more bad tape than there's been good tape. And I think Alabama's defense, they definitely possess the potential to make that bad tape come to the forefront yet again.